liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Moving right along. Next up, we'll entertain a motion for the approval of the February 15th, 2022 goal-setting session and the minutes of the February 2022 regular meeting session, regular meeting. Oh, February 15th, maybe. I think I heard that wrong. So, and we do have a correction on the February 15th meeting. That Lori Taylor was present at the meeting and she didn't get listed, so. Your pleasure with the approval of those two minutes as amended.
Move approval.
Support.
Okay, we have motion support. Any other additions or corrections? Additions, deletions, anything? Hearing none, those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, be no. Motion is carried. Okay, we've approved the minutes. Moving down to communication, we have 3 different pieces of communication. Recommendation to receive. What is your pleasure?
Move to receive.
Support.
Have motion support. Are there any comments or questions?
Yes, I have a comment, if I could, or a question on the communication from Chris Maltby. I was looking at it here, and I'm not sure where it is, but he mentioned, among other things, that the very large size of the 96-gallon carts might be difficult for people, and since there are 3 separate size carts available that they make, might it be possible for somebody who did not want to haul that big cart out to, even though paying the same thing, just get a smaller cart? Could we look into that maybe, or?
We could look at that. It
Okay.
would be obviously we have one price for the.
Right, but they were thinking about a matter of how
If it's not money, they just want a smaller.
unruly those things could be for a little old lady for 2 96-gallon carts, maybe to get a smaller cart, so.
Roger, quit calling me old.
Ouch.
Well, no, we
No, I
can,
just teasing.
Yeah.
He says
I would
it.
assume if you're not changing the price.
Yeah, just be a matter, I think if the machine can handle it.
That's
we can
right.
Pick them up
I
mechanically.
think
so
he
don't know if
said,
it can or
I think
not.
he said that they have the same, I'm looking for that part. I thought-
You have to
He
defend.
did pictures, so we just have to check with.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
check with, we'll check with
Okay.
Mr. Truman on that.
Okay,
And if
great.
it's, if it's available, our
Okay,
citizens
they
want
have
it.
So 35,
Why
a
would we-
64, and a 96. And they appear to have the same lift things on them, so. Okay, thank you.
No,
Good
We'll check
point.
into that, we'll check into that.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I believe we did have a motion and support on the table, so all those in favor would be yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is passed and we have received the reports. Move down to agreements. First up is consideration of a resolution approving the project authorization 2017-0004/P17 Revision 1, Section 5311, operating formula grants for rural area programs for year 2022. Also to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement on behalf of the city of Alma. Your pleasure.
move to approve.
Support.
Motion support. Staff have any comments?
This is just a procedural to receive our monies for CARES monies. I'll just read you the subject matter there. The Office of Passenger Transportation has recently revised the FY21 511 CARES Flex authorizations, and they have been sent to the transit agencies for signature. The purpose of the revision is to update the payment language in the authorization. However, transit agencies have already received this funding, so it's just a procedure to.
If we don't pass it, we have to send it back.
Exactly, yep,
Yep.
exactly. But yeah, a long, complicated number and slashes and things to keep up on it, so. yeah.
They gotta keep it straight somehow.
That's right,
I
that's
think
right,
so.
that's right.
Okay, anybody have comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor would be yes.
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 Any opposed would be no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Number 2, consideration of a resolution to authorize the Alma Transit Director Brett Bublitz to execute a 1-year contract for transportation services with Gratiot Integrated Health Network. Your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Support.
Got a motion support, comments or questions? Anyone? Okay, well, I do have some comments, it's surprised no one, I'm sure, but I continue to have a problem with the city providing services to townships that do not participate in the millage that we now have been joined. You know, the city of Elmwood's been collecting a millage for transit services for a number of years. Recently, St. Louis, Ithaca, Pine River Township joined in that. It seems to me we are undermining our own value proposition of why people should choose to live in the city when we are providing services to these townships that chose not to join us. They certainly have been more than welcome to join us over the years. We've made numerous attempts to get a countywide program going. And as long as we're continuing to support these services for people that don't live within the boundaries of the taxpayers that are, you know, paying the millage for the service, I just question why we continue to deliver it to those folks. It seems like they need to get their townships and their municipal leaders, whatever they are, on board with supporting it with a millage so that we can all enjoy a reduced cost and share the overhead for this program, or any program for that matter. It's not that I don't like to participate with other municipalities. We do a lot of things with other cities, you know, particularly St. Louis. I'm very much in favor of joining forces and leveraging both of our resources over and over again. But I think they need to join on an equal footing. Them just selecting certain services to purchase that we're carrying doesn't make any sense to me. So that's my own feeling. Anybody else at this point?
Is this really a matter, though, of those townships? They're not the selectors in this. It's Gratiot Integrated Health Network
Right.
that we're providing services for. No, and
Yeah, yeah,
basically, yeah,
I
mean,
get the social implications of why we want to provide this, and I understand that, but they need to join in with a county-wide program to make transportation available to everybody. You know, this just picks off one group that gives services to this one group that happens to be hooked up with Gratiot Integrated Health. You know, I don't know who else is out there that needs services that can't get it because they're not hooked with this organization. But it seems to me the townships ought to participate on equal footing with the rest of us. You know, it just bothers me that we're not all equal. And we're paying a tax millage, now St. Louis, Pine River Township, Ithaca, City of Ithaca's paying a millage. Why doesn't everybody just join in? We could probably, you know, we should be reducing our millage anyway. I mean, with the joining of the St. Louis and Ithaca group in Pine River Township, I presume our millage is gonna go down, we were told it should, for transit services. If everybody joined in, it could probably go down a little further even, so. That's my personal feeling on it.
If I may, Mayor, I could pursue a countywide transit service if that's what you would like me to do.
I believe it has been pursued, as far as I know, and I think everybody in City Hall will tell you, the door's been open for years.
Okay.
We've pursued it a number of times.
And I can push that forward if that's what your desire is.
That would be my preference. I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels, but.
that definitely makes sense. I mean, other counties have gotten it. I believe Isabella is countywide, isn't it?
Yes, it
their
is.
whole-
I think
So-
MDOT would love for us to be countywide because, especially the southern half of the county, there's no services offered at all except for our non-emergency medical service, our specialized service that when we took over or absorbed patient equipment locker,
Yeah.
so we offer those services for people to be able to get back and forth, mainly to dialysis, but cancer treatments and everything else. It's a much needed service, and that's what the folks from GIN, I mean, this is a medical appointment. We don't go pick up these people to come shopping at Walmart. I mean, they're coming to town to
Specifically.
use GIN services. When they're in Elma, then they can travel throughout the service area. And then we will take them home once they're done doing their shopping or getting the prescriptions or whatever the case may be. It's a very limited service that they are offering. And it has to be tied to a GIN appointment.
With limited service, but it's 29% of your activity, I believe.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is demand out there that these, you know,
We
people
get
should
calls
want to join in
regularly
and
for-
be part of the
for
program.
demand outside of our service area. So I believe that if I could get it onto a county ballot, that it would pass.
Well, and I completely agree with the theory of it, because it seems like you know, the parks, the library, you know, all of these, transportation, all of these things that we're
We carry a
funding,
disproportionate load
yes,
of the
and so I
burden, of
don't
the
know what
financial
the
burden, yes.
precedent is of what we can do. I mean, I, you know, I want to be able to provide the service to the gym clients, but I completely agree with what you're saying, but I don't know how we go about this. I guess I don't know what we do.
Well, and I don't have a good answer for you either, because we've tried this for a number of years, we've offered the service to others to join us, and, you know, until recently, nobody did, but certainly recently, we have had some success there, so I think out Pioneer Township. But at some point, you gotta say no more, and if you want the service, you need to join on equal footing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as long as they're getting the milk for free, so to speak,
Right.
Right by the cow.
you know, it's an old adage, but there is some truth to it.
How long does that process take
I-
to get it on millage? So, I mean, I'm looking at
I-
a September first and
It was gonna take a long time, I think, to build up
18
to.
months probably.
Yeah, you'd have to get the approval
You'd
of
have
the
to get the
various
buy-in of various
city
townships
councils,
and-
township
yeah.
boards and everything else before, and then they would pass resolutions and then a ballot language and everything else. It's a process.
Yeah.
And I think the mayor's correct in the sense that I think it has been tried before. Now you do have some movement, you just don't have quite as much. I think, Roxanne, from what, you know, to answer your question, it's kind of tough because you'd almost have to draw that line in the sand. You'd almost have to say, you know what, if you're not paying for it as a township, we're not going into your township to pick up your people. And I understand the thought, but that's what it would take, and that would mean that some of those people in that township have to find another way to get this health care. So it's
Yeah,
definitely a
and I feel
difficult
bad
choice.
for the people that if we cut it,
Yeah, I
we were
mean-
to cut them
No,
off,
and
and
I
that's why,
understand that you
that's
do,
why
but
we
that's
continue
not-
to roll
right.
this contract year
Right.
after year.
I'm not saying
after
you're
year.
wrong, I'm just saying that's
No.
the tough part of the
Right.
equation. I mean,
So
this
that's
is
what we have to,
difficult.
like you're saying, we have to make a decision of, this is
Yeah.
what we're moving towards, and
Well-
what, like with the library, you know, you don't let people that, I mean, I'm looking at the broader
Yeah,
range of it.
it's one
Are
thing
you-
to say you can't get a book, but it's another thing to say you're not getting dialysis, though, you know, I mean, this is a
Right.
difficult, you know, that, you
Well,
know.
I mean, I agree theoretically in the difference, but we're looking at cutting or funding the library, and, I mean, if we're gonna we can't, I don't think, just pick and choose things, and so I feel like if that's the direction we're heading, are we gonna figure out what kind of restrictions, or how, I mean, you block access to things like the library in the same way that you do with the,
Well, we have agreements that we have to abide by with the library, or with the county, and, you know, the whole details of that millage agreement that is countywide. Again, it's a political process we'd wanna go through if we, you know, it's my opinion that we need to open up negotiations on that agreement again, that formula of funding. And, you know, take a look at that and see if we can perhaps get some more equity. You know, it's my feeling that we're bringing a lot more to the table than what we're getting, our
Right.
compensation share is.
right. And as my commissioner had, I completely
Mhm.
agree that we can't continue.
I mean, I don't wanna do
As
away
a
with it.
human, you know, and wanting people to be able to access these services, you know, that's the struggle. I mean, I know for the city, we need to get proportionate funding, but I'm struggling with the,
And I
Denied
struggle with it, I struggle with it
services.
too, but it's like, before the meeting, I was happened to be talking to Eric, and, you know, if my house was 200 yards the other direction, my taxes would be $3,000 less. If we don't,
see, I've only owned my house here in Elma, I have no point of reference.
well, but just, if you look at your taxes, then go look at what somebody out in the
I
township
don't
is
know
paying.
what anybody else is.
You know, look what you're paying on your tax bill for city services, and if we don't maintain the integrity of those services, if we keep piecemealing them off and letting everybody participate in them, then how can we justify charging our citizens this tax bill? Because everybody else is getting the same services. I mean, at the end of the day, it isn't fair to our taxpayers. And it's not that I don't want people to get dialysis or to go to the library and get services.
I know.
I'm very proud of all those things happening. I just want them to be equitable.
So we have an 18-month lead time.
Yeah, and politically, perhaps longer than that. I mean, that's a whole can of worms.
I mean, at one point, I don't want somebody left in the lurch. I don't know that it is it unreasonable to say for those folks that are participating, say, we're gonna implement it this year, but we start a review this year. This is the expectation. We're gonna review it, so going forward, when we look at it next year at this time, we have some answers in terms of that. I feel, just, it was like a 6 months deal, I'd say, yeah, do it, it's a year. I honestly don't think you want, the health issues and mental health issues are so prevalent, it's such a problem. I don't wanna cut that off, but I do think serving notice with this contract would
Right.
be a review, let's start that process, and here's the answers we're gonna have by the time we review this again. And that's the commission's way, but that would be my way of creating a sense of urgency and motivation to do it, by giving us time to get it done so we can avoid harming anyone. So that's the thought I would have about it.
So is there a way to, like you're saying, because if we're thinking it's, year and a half to 2 years minimum to get something organized and on a ballot, can we approve this for a year with?
I think we do, yes. I mean, I'm
It's
not
an
that,
annual.
quite that cold-hearted that I would want to stop at
And
this
I
point,
know,
but.
and you're
But I just
you're
want,
good at being
I think we need to have the
rational and
conversations around these things.
absolutely, I agree.
And try and
I
move
agree.
ourselves forward.
Okay, so we're making notice that we're looking into
Does that
starting.
need to be included in the motion?
I think
think
what
the
you do,
intent is clear.
the only issue here is whether you're gonna approve it for a year, but I think the message has to get out subsequent to this, that we need to talk about this.
Right,
We need to be serious about it, see what we can do, and then, and let people know that this is gonna be revisited, I guess, in a
And we
year.
do have a model.
I don't know that
so
you'd attach it to the
yeah, okay.
motion.
Yeah.
It seems to me this is just a one-year deal, and
So
that,
when Brett goes out and talks to townships, he can say, it's possible that the services will end at the end of this contract.
that at least
Unless we
it's.
have
Unless it's a
somebody
review.
started,
right,
you know.
unless you start getting your local officials on board with providing
But
services.
but we also have a model that was
Right.
successful to at least put that group together, so that's a place to hang their hat. So.
Okay,
They
we did,
definitely need those services. I mean, we all agree that they definitely wanna
Right,
keep those
right.
services available for people.
And I think it's probably, I don't know, but I'm sure there is a lower income population that is served in some of these
Absolutely.
capacities, so, yeah, so,
both inside and outside the city and
Yeah, absolutely.
just all
Yes.
over, yeah, there's no doubt about it. And the services are desperately needed, and I'm sure the services are underfunded and overwhelmed with clients as well, so I don't doubt any of that. But anybody else before we vote? Okay, I believe we did have a motion on the table and support, so, is that correct? Okay. All right, all those in favor be yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, be no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next up is, let's see, consideration of a resolution to approve the agreement regarding athletic facility use of the Euclid Street baseball fields between the city of Elma and the Elma Little League commencing on April 1st, 2022 and ending on April 1st, 2022. August 1st, 2022. We had a very
That's
short
gonna be
season
quick,
this
yeah.
year.
hope for no rain.
You got one afternoon.
Just like the major league.
Almost as short as a
Just
major
like a
league
major
season,
league.
yeah.
I thought lockdown.
My apologies.
Move approval.
Support.
Motion support, okay. Any comments or questions? Anybody from the audience want to say anything? Are you guys here for baseball or not? No? Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were here for baseball or something.
It's a sign of spring.
It's a sign of spring, yes. And it's this, just again, because I can't keep my mouth shut, but this goes back to the county, we've got a countywide park millage. The county's collecting $500,000 for parks. They basically run 2 parks, about as far away from the population center of Gratiot County as you can get. They've got 2 duplicate parks that have all kinds of facilities. They've got irrigated ball fields while our kids are playing on old
Broken
dumps
glass.
that are quite probably have, well, I guess we know there are some contaminants under there because it's the old city dump underneath where they're playing, and they have to re-level the fields every now and then because something collapses underneath or whatever, and it just seems like the priorities of the county are a little bit mixed up here when, we're spending $500,000 away from here and our kids can't have a decent place to play, and because our taxpayers don't have enough money to support a good field.
Greg,
But-
as our mayor, have you been to the county meetings to, I mean, I haven't been to any.
I-
Have you expressed this, you
I
express it to the meetings here? I
Did a
just
couple
wondered-
years ago, and at the last millage, they agreed to put up to 20%, I believe is how they phrased it, of their collections available for cities and townships to apply for funds. But I don't believe, I think they had a round of funding, the window is now closed again, and they had a round of funding, I don't think we got a notice that the,
So
It was
would you like
open,
to
so-
represent us at the next meeting and ask them about that for
unfortunately, I
us?
have conflicts at most of the commissions, county commission meetings, but yeah, I wouldn't mind going back to some parks meetings, which is
Yeah.
where I've been before, which is what started the conversation a couple years ago. And in fact, you know, we even went, I mean, we had the superintendent of all the schools and superintendents of several schools, in fact, in other municipalities, St. Louis, Ithaca, we were all together. We all would like to put a program together, have some programming, you know, and have some activities here in Alma, St. Louis, Ithaca, Breckenridge.
We just need to bring it back.
They
up at
just
the
didn't do
county
any part of
level
that,
for-
so.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, I believe we have a motion, is that true? Okay, all those in favor say yes,
Yes.
any opposed say no, motion is carried, thank you. Reports of officers, boards, and committees, we have one from the Emma Transit Center, February 22 report, the city managers, interim city managers report. We have a verbal report coming from the city manager hiring committee, and one verbal report from the water authority committee. Your pleasure.
Wanna talk while you're there, Chris?
Nope,
It's
those
pretty
are all
self-explanatory.
in the unfinished business portion of the agenda.
I move to approve 1 and 2 of the reports.
Okay. Any comments or questions? We won't get through any support yet. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, we have motion support, comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. We've received 2 reports. Motion on number 3, verbal report from the city manager hiring committee.
Okay, one of the tasks.
So what a
I-
motion
I have
first,
to
I
approve.
think.
I have to
Sorry.
approve. Or one of us has to approve. Sorry.
Did I hear a motion? I'm hearing
Sure.
things, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of us.
Did you get motion support?
I-
You got it, or we-
I agree, Sarah, I think we all.
I think Roxanne and Michelle.
Everybody and nobody,
Yes,
right?
yes, that's perfect, thank you very much.
Okay.
Is it my turn? Okay.
You may speak.
Thank you. Loudly? That's what you need. Use my indoor voice. Was asked to get some quotes from search firms. I looked at 3 in Michigan. The range was from 18.5 to 13.2 for comprehensive, which includes interviewing all of us, trying to get a sense of what we are looking for, interviewing some of the staff, things like, all the way through to reference checks and things like that. So they're all comprehensive. I can get more detail to you. But as it came up, it also it's called to my attention that our interim position was for 6 months, can be for 6 months, and that comes up the 21st, so.
Actually,
Our next meeting is the 22nd.
it comes up, in my opinion, when Eric became the interim city manager, not when he was appointed. He got appointed for a 6-month term, but it didn't start until Matt left. So I don't think it's March 21st
Okay,
or
so we do have
22nd, it's
time.
March 28th or 29th, whatever, which in this case might be somewhat important because
Then we can have.
we've got another meeting coming up before
Yes.
then.
What I'd like to do
I
is.
believe we retroed his pay back, we should probably go back to that date, shouldn't we? Whatever his pay was, because we didn't pass a pay increase for a number of days.
Yeah,
but
right,
I think it was retroed back, it should have been,
yeah,
so if we could get.
yeah, yeah.
So
It
that
should be
would
back
the
to when he
day, I would
started.
think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if it goes to that, one of the things that also came up in the discussion certainly were issues about the kind of pool that's out there at this point and the timeline that it takes. I think there's other considerations in terms of what's the impact on all of us involved, what's the impact on the employees, what's the impact on other folks. What I'd really like to do, what I thought we missed in our whole process before, either a working meeting or one of our meetings, have this group talk about that and also start to explore some of the options that we have in front of us that we need to start to consider going forward from this. So that, I can get the information to you about the search firms, and we'll do that through Sarah. But I think there's other questions that probably we need to start talking about and start
So
other
if
considerations.
I understand, and I don't know that I do, that means that we can't have an interim longer
No.
than 6 months?
No, it means
We
you're gonna
can
have to
Because
revisit
we
it.
have to
His
revisit
appointment
it.
expires, we could reappoint
You
you.
gotta
Okay, I didn't know if
revisit
it meant all
But,
total.
but
By the
we,
end of
we
the
need to
month.
look at
Okay.
that among other, I think there's
Okay.
other things we
Good.
probably ought to
Thank
be
you.
discussing in the fullness of that discussion, I think there's other things.
Thank you.
So should we just put it on the agenda for the next one?
I think it's gonna have to be put on the
Yeah,
agenda.
that's that, but if you wanna do a working meeting in
A
between.
work session, I
A
mean,
work session dedicated to just that, where we wouldn't be can't take action, but can talk. And of course, it's open, because it's an open work session, but have that conversation. That would be the will of the commission, if you wanna do that too.
Might we do that as we used to do the work session prior to the meeting next week, or 2 weeks, I mean?
Would we, I mean, if we, my only concern about that, and I don't know, but if there were things that needed to be lined up, I mean, we're kind of down to the wire anyway, even if adding another 6 or 7 days, right? I mean, are we okay?
Well, the next meeting, we have to make some sort of decision, one way.
Right,
Whatever
so if
gonna
we're
do.
doing
well,
the, if
I
we're
mean,
doing
if
the
we're,
work session
if
right
concerned
before
with our
that
dates, we
meeting.
could reappoint the gentleman, if he's willing to accept it, he could reappoint him tonight for
Okay.
another extended contract, right?
Okay.
And
That's
there's no reason we couldn't take that
Okay.
action tonight.
But
That's true.
in 6 months, if we still don't have a decision, we're gonna want the 2 weeks.
Of the 2 weeks.
Like, if we appoint him tonight, the date starts today to go 6 months forward. So
We
if
can
make
vote
the
on it
date-
tonight and make it
No.
effective as the
Yeah.
date
Yeah,
that it ends.
right,
There you go.
right,
Yeah.
that's true.
What would be the downside to waiting to appoint him for an extra 6 months? I mean, I think at this
Well,
point,
there's not much chance we're gonna come up with a solution, a different solution in the
Yeah.
in
so
the
my,
next
my
2
question
weeks,
is
I
why
don't
wait
think.
2 weeks? Why not
Yeah.
just do it now?
If you, that's, if
You know what I
that's the
mean?
will of the commission, do it, then it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, unless you had other options that you wanted to discuss, like offering them a job or something like that. I mean, that's something that could happen too. And if that
Well,
was.
that
gonna
could happen whether we
Yeah, whether he's
Yeah.
there or
appoint it or
not.
not.
Yeah, true.
That doesn't preclude, I think, us
True.
pursuing other options
True.
if we so choose when we have a work session about this.
Because I think the contract is kind of at will, and we can
That's true,
terminate it at any point, I believe, is
that's true.
no job security, my friend.
Is that-
It's all downside.
Is there a motion on the floor for that?
Well,
There has not been.
Somebody care to make a motion?
Might
But
instead-
are we in the middle of the motion of the reports? Do we do one within one, or we wait
Oh,
till we're done with the
That's why I was
reports?
kind of
Yeah.
waiting.
Okay.
So if you accept the report, then you can
Right.
make a motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the, support on the table to accept the report. We're done, assuming we're done with discussion. So all those in favor would be yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's carried, we're taking your report. Let's, why don't we do the next report and get that one out of the way before I forget it? So I'd like a motion for the Verbal Water Authority report.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, motion support. Did you get
Okay,
that?
we met on February 11th. We meet on the Friday after commission meetings, so it's, 2 weeks ago or whatever, but, so we'll meet again this Friday. There was an election of officers, Kirk Isles as chair, Eric Ripley as vice chair. I'm secretary and recording secretary, which is the important of the 2 secretaries, is Kim Fellows. Just to make that clear, I'm just in name only, I think. We discussed the water treatment chemicals, and Dave, if I say anything incorrect, please
You're doing fine.
step in, okay? There's not the same restrictions as with wastewater chlorine,
We do not use the same chemicals.
right, but the restrictions of stockpiling, et
Oh, yes.
cetera, there are not the same, correct?
Correct.
And the federal law allows them to increase prices whenever they feel like it, which is a
Unfortunately.
treat. So Dave would only,
But they are us, right?
Sorry.
Or are you talking
no,
about the
no, no,
chemical
who we're
supplies?
buying them
Oh,
from,
oh,
yes,
the
yeah,
chemical
not
supplies.
us, we're, so Dave would only shop around if our supply became too low and we needed to increase. And there is a USA Blue Book catalog that we go through to purchase water and wastewater equipment, testing equipment, safety supplies. It's a general catch-all for water and wastewater supplies. This has already happened now, but Ken Alstein, the water superintendent, retired, resigned on February 25th to move back to Traverse City. We have an internal candidate who can sign off on our data for reports on a temporary basis for licensing. We have 2 fully certified F1 lab technicians. There's extra compensation for the named operator. This is where it gets kind of wonky, so F2, we're still a year out from obtaining F1.
Well, I'm gonna enter some of the
Please.
personnel stuff, but yeah, well, there's one person that's, interested in moving up but does not have his current F1,
Okay,
which is a
yes.
requirement to be the operator in charge. We do have a temporary operator in charge internally who's willing to do it for an extremely temporary period of time. We are, still have applications out to try to see if we can, attract an interested person who has the certifications to be the true operator in charge permanently. And so that, but there's a temporary process in place that is going on, with the idea that either finding someone from the outside or if somebody from the inside attains those accreditations to move up.
And I did have that they had posted statewide and national, but it's not a robust pool with qualified and management experience and licensing requirements, so. With the help of Dave Ringel, that's my one.
I'm sure City of Flint really helped that whole process out of hiring people.
I'm sure.
No, there's a lot of jobs open right now,
Yeah.
and it's very competitive.
Okay, any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of receiving report would be yes.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion is carried and our report is received. Thank you. Thank you very much for the verbal reports. Let's see, unfinished business,
Did you-
consideration of.
Mr. Mayor, did you wanna revisit the city manager?
Oh, I thought we'd do that in our new business, but.
Oh, fine.
we're gonna-
Go right ahead.
Okay. Consideration of a resolution to approve amendments as presented to the current collection procedures and landlord affidavit policy in relation to water shutoffs. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Motion support, comments or questions? Any background from staff for the
Yes.
camera? Or?
Yep, definitely. Obviously, we've talked about this a couple times, that during the COVID time period, we suspended shut-offs and continued that after the statute went away at the state level. But instead of continuing to do that, what staff has come up with is these amendments to our current collections procedures and landlord affidavit to spell out in clear language how people can get help with extending their time period for if they do need more time to pay their water bills. And then obviously also reminding them of the if it doesn't happen, what the consequences are too. So I think what the finance department has put together here hits that balance that we've discussed a couple times. That yes, we do want to be helpful in making sure people keep their water on, but at the same time, at some point, we have to draw the line. So I think the amendments that are presented do cover that.
Good, thank you for that.
Any questions? Okay, none. So all those in favor will be yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no? Motion is carried. Next, we have continued discussion regarding lead and copper remediation.
Dave, I want Dave to take this one
Yeah,
for
if
you.
you remember back 2 weeks ago, we had our presentation about the it's called the lead copper service rule. I don't know why we put copper in part of that, but that's what it's regarded as. And if you remember that presentation, I gave you a list of 4 questions leading up to it to think about. I haven't heard anything from anyone, but I do want to make sure that I have the commission's input before we proceed further with this and go down that road, because within the next, ideally within the next month, we would have these letters sent out, we'd actually start excavating and doing some research on this, so. Couple questions, but and these are no particular order, but they do warrant some discussion and, responses, at least, partnerships with the commission, because you're gonna hear from folks out in the public, so, and we're gonna get calls and things like that, so I wanna make sure that we're on the same page. One question came from staff, and I told them I didn't have the answer, so we'll move forward with finding out your thoughts.
You wanna get music to
It's a
come.
soundtrack for you.
You're on hold.
in, Dave.
Yep, you're on hold right now.
There's a very dramatic entry.
You just wanted to set the mood.
Yeah, I can go to the podium, but I don't wanna make it look like I'm dictating any of this. I want this to be a discussion amongst, you folks, so thanks for the holding music anyway. First question is, if we're going to send out a list of three letters, and the first one's going to be, very informal, very explaining what we're doing, why we're doing it. Trying to get, the resident to allow us to come into their premises to look at the water lines. There's gonna be a second one if we didn't get a response, and then obviously the third one will be, please let us in so we can do an inventory of what the lines are that are entering your structure. And if we don't hear anything back after the third one, my question is, what steps would you like us to take to achieve access to the premises? I don't want to be necessarily a bad person or our staff to shut water off, but I don't know of another option, because if you remember from the presentation, we have 357 locations that we have to do for a statistical snapshot, if you will. And if we don't get into those, it can skew with our data. So we need to get into these. And the premise was shutting the water off if we don't hear anything back from, we give them a 10-day grace period. If we don't hear from you in 10 days, we'd have to shut your water off. With the idea that we're really after compliance, but the biggest other thing too is we want to make sure we're supplying safe water. And if we don't get access to the premise, one of the legal stances that we could take is we don't want to continue to sell you water that might not be safe. So we're gonna discontinue that until we can prove that we're allowing you safe water. So that's the real reason behind, those are the two reasons behind, the only thing that I can really think of to get access to the premises after we don't hear anything back. They're gonna be very, very few and far between. I would assume that most everybody will wanna participate, but some people just don't want you into their structure, so, and I'm open to suggestions. For what we can
Remind
do.
me, we're doing that by like a lottery, like you're just,
It was a
it's a random
statistical.
pick of who it is, right?
Yeah, it was a statistical lottery through Microsoft Excel. You can do a random sample, and then out of all the residents that we send the bills to, then it gives us a list of 357. And once you get that list, you're allowed to change it, because then you're skewing the randomness
But
of it.
the program is state mandated. We're not the only ones that are required to do this, correct?
Correct.
Is anybody else blazing a trail? I mean, we typically are not trailblazers in the city of Elma. We like to let somebody else lead
Yeah.
and perhaps point out some pitfalls that we
Yes.
can avoid. Is anybody else ahead of us? And do you know what their actions are, or what their consequences are to their citizens?
If you go back in your way back machine, 2 years ago, when we had the goal setting session, then we talked about it. You're basically left with pretty please, knocking on the door and begging to get in the house, or shut the water off. And those two attempts have been done. Now, if they don't let you in, I don't know if the state of Michigan will allow you to say they did not give us entrance, but legally that could be an option too. If they say they did not allow us access to the structure, therefore we did not go in, but we can quantify the 2 locations that we checked on that service line, but not in the structure. That could be a possibility.
I kind of think
Those are
that
the 3 things that I know of. You can either force it by shutting the water off, you can fall short of begging, or show how many times you tried to make contact and then we couldn't get contact, so that's all we can do. So,
I think the next, after there have been no response to the letters, I think the next line of attack has to be a knock on the door. Did you get these? Did you read them? No, I can't read. No, I don't know where they are. No, I never saw them. No, the dog ate them. Any of those kind of things, you know. And then explaining person to person, here is what we are trying to do. Might we, you know, you can accompany me while we go, you know, down your basement and look at your lines. It's, you know, but we really kind of need to get this done, like you say, your pretty please thing. And then if they slam the door in your face, then I think we have to go back to the state and say, what do we do? They're not gonna let us in the building, and other than taking their house by eminent domain, and then going and looking in the building.
Is there statutory authority for this? I mean, or is this just,
those are the options that I've been told through 3 different state classes on this that you can take.
I mean,
It's up to
is,
each municipality if they
Nobody's
want
gone to court yet on this.
well, no, I guess what I'm asking though is,
Not yet.
was there a statute that was enacted setting forth this program or whatever? Because if there was, that allows us to get in, then court proceeding would be a viable option.
That's an option.
It'd be
if
the
you want to
last
pursue
one,
that,
and
if you wanna
obviously
go
it'd
to
be
court,
more
that's-
expensive, but that would be the last one.
Correct.
The other thing I don't understand,
That's
I
what's
mean,
listed in the third letter, by the way, the under state mandate,
Okay.
section 206.
yeah,
something.
because if there is, then I think then a court proceeding, and it'd probably be relatively quick. I don't think, but, I mean, obviously it'd be a last resort. You don't want to have to pay for it. The other thing I don't understand though is if you just need 357, I can't believe you can't send out 400 letters. I mean, that just seems crazy. They get to pick the 357 that you're going to select, and if one person doesn't allow it or isn't around and you can't get a hold of them, that screws up the whole thing.
Yes.
That makes no sense.
Because they want, it's based on a percentage, and now after, it's up to 5,000 structures or something, 357 is the magic number, the way that it was ruled.
Yeah, but if it's a random sample, who cares? You know what I'm saying? We could substitute one for another. It seems
But
crazy.
it's not purely random if you follow the idea behind statistics.
But
That's
if
the
you were,
reason why.
because it's
Then it's
computer
voluntary.
generated random sample, right? So if you generated 400 random names
But of
and
that,
got the first 357 that you
Yeah,
on your list, would that suffice?
yeah. I mean,
Are
that's,
there,
the people
is it
that
that
say,
detailed on how you generate your random sample?
but I know I don't have this, so it's skewed because I'm volunteering. Those people are absolutely volunteering out of the 400, 357 volunteered to let you do that.
yeah, but I think that what I think the rationale behind all of this is you
Spread
don't
them
want to
out
have
too.
to look at every one. And they figure if we can do a random sample, that'll give us a snapshot. It'll tell us how we're doing. I don't think how you select those people, unless there's you know what I mean? There's
I know what you mean.
there's rhyme or reason to why you selected those 357 people.
You're not just going down one street and doing 300
Yeah,
houses
right.
in a
No,
row.
because it is gonna be odd. If you remember that map, there's certain neighborhoods where I can think of the south side of town, there's 3 houses on the exact same block.
Yeah.
Then you might go 7 blocks each direction and not get anything. It is truly the
Well, you
randomness
just
of the
say
sample.
But
Yeah.
I will defer to
Everything.
Nick in knowing the randomness thing, but I think what you're saying is that it's not truly random if you've got a list of 400 and you go through the first 357 and you
Well,
get them.
or of that 400, and a number of people don't want to do it because they already know they don't comply.
Right.
So now you're gonna get folks who are pretty sure
Right.
they comply, so sure, come in.
Except if they don't comply, aren't we gonna fix it?
But if you
is it
don't
gonna-
go in the house to see.
Well, no, what
how
I'm
would you
saying
know?
is, why would somebody that has a system that doesn't comply say, we don't want you to fix it?
Because
I
people
mean, that's
get
just
afraid.
insane.
People get
Huh?
scared by those.
People don't want the government in their house.
Well, they're worried.
And there is that.
You're
I-
pursuing.
Right,
There's a
so they're
segment of the
worried about
population.
them. You're gonna find something else.
Yes.
Besides that, this is different tack. This is really dense. I mean, in terms of where, I can imagine a lot of people look at this, their eyes glazing over and say, oh, it's from the city. Does somebody out there, do they have a brochure? Are we doing PSAs saying you may get one of these letters, pay attention to it? What other kind of marketing plan do you have to get, I mean, seriously, there's some stuff, it's on our website, look for this letter, but also, is there a way to stick, the Reader's Digest version of this and people in a water bill? To say that this is what's gonna happen, because I look at this and it's like, whoa, you're looking at people that now text and anything over 32 characters, I can't hold my attention, so we're gonna have to figure out kind of
Probably, yeah.
how to get there.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, I don't know, it's probably more, I can only do 32 characters.
I
but
get
well, after Resident, I was done, but it's very dense. And while it covers all the bases,
I can't put it in the water bill, that's a great idea, but if I do that, I'm gonna have everybody, a number of
thinking
people
they're gonna get, right.
all wanting us to come into their house to do a preliminary survey. And while I'd love to do that, there's limiting factors, time and money. So eventually, yeah, we are gonna get to everybody. But for this initial,
This was just for this survey.
exploratory information gathering.
But even a
it's,
blast or a story in the newspaper
Yes.
or something that says, you may get one of
Correct.
these letters.
Then those are all things that I would like to do, yes. But
Just-
But,
if I can get
like
the
you
media
said though,
attention and then.
if you put it in the newspaper and it
Why
says,
didn't you check my house?
why don't you check your house, so if we get the random 367 and we put all the brochures and all the information in that letter, just besides the letter, it's
Yep.
I just need,
something to explain to them Dave's phone number. Call the question. Or ask us, I mean.
I just worry that people are just.
Yeah.
It's so dense, they're
Right.
just.
No,
move
that's,
on.
that always happens with, a lot of things. I always look at sidewalk
And that's-
invoices, and you look at, special assessments, you get that. And yes, there will be those ancillary people, that's the reason for the knocking on the door, if you
Yeah,
don't hear
right,
anything
you
from
have
them.
to
That
call
we've
them.
done when we did the stormwater diversion inspection, those are the approaches you take. What I am truly concerned with is the person or the place that says, no, I'm not going to do this. And if they say no, they're truly their right, and then I would have to explore, as long as we document that they didn't let us in, does that suffice? I don't know. That
Can we
may
put that
have
on the
to go
back
into-
burner for now, and let's, let the program develop,
Okay.
and maybe, I mean, with stormwater diversion, how many people did not let us in the house?
Going by rough memory, there was at least probably around 12, I could confidently say.
And we never got into those 12.
Correct.
Out of-
So they're paying double, I think is what we did? They paid double sewer?
They're supposed to pay the $100 surcharge on their
Are
annual
we
bill.
charging that?
I don't know right off the top of my head. I'm talking water
Curtis.
rate numbers for that.
There's some homework for you.
Get back to you.
Thank you,
So-
sir.
Dave, do you know what
So-
percentage that was?
I can't imagine anybody's paying $100 extra a month
No.
because they won't let us go in and look and see if we can
Yeah,
improve
12
their
out of
house. It
three.
doesn't make any sense.
350 to 400 houses.
And you had 12 that didn't, so it's about 90, 98, 97, 95, 97%
Yeah,
return.
that's what I said, most.
If I was doing a
most
survey and
places.
sent out a random sample and I got a 97% return, I'd be real happy.
Yeah.
So I think that, if you treat it like, yeah, you treat it, in that regard, you treat it like, what's our survey response? And that would be, we have this kind of response rate. I think that may be a way to go about it too.
Because every city's gonna have the same question, and the state's gonna come back with some answers to this at some point.
There were some cities that are allowing people to take their own pictures. Now, if it comes down to it, maybe that's something to explore. Based on our understanding of this, is we, the city, are the ones that are liable for this. So if they take a photo that's not accurate, and we submit this as information, that's why we want our staff, or at least a representative from our staff, to quantify that, to document it, say that they were in this address, this is exactly what enters the house for the first 18 inches. Property owners can do that, but that might be an acceptable option. If somebody really doesn't want us to do it, if they have a smartphone, what we'll do is see if we can enact a GPS coordinate on there. That might be a possibility. Always try to explore every possibility before you do the last ditch effort. And don't want to be in the business of shutting water off, but I also know that we have a mandate that we have to meet as well. So those are avenues we could also explore, but I want to make sure that the GPS position is enabled on the phone so we can quantify that, yep, that was in that location. If it comes down to a court case, that we based it on all the available data, as accurate as we could when we submitted that. But yes, we can visit that based on we can find out who's not complying, because no matter what, we are going to be in their front yard. That we have to do the curb stop. So they'll know when we're there, and we'll knock on the door if we haven't got anything. Ideally, we'd go into their house first, explain it. We'd be in the same neighborhood, because we want to take this neighborhood by neighborhood. We're not gonna canvass 357 all at once. What we're looking at doing is doing quadrants of town, trying to get everything from that quadrant before we move to the next. That's just financially smarter than hodgepodging all over the place. So they'll know when we're there. And we'll knock on the doors if we haven't gotten anything. We'll put pamphlets, that type of thing, if we haven't gotten responses. It's kind of a brief synopsis of that question. Based on, and then the next one, if we want to move forward, the staff has asked if we want to look at anything interior into the house as far as if they have any cross connects. Part of their annual licensing is they have to document any potential cross connections within the city between irrigation and the city water system, make sure there's backflow prevention on this. We can do that when we're in the house, but I'd also have to, I want to include that language in the letter. If we tell them that we're only going to look at what their material is entering the house, and we're also saying, oh, you don't have a backflow preventer, I don't want to lie in these letters. If we say we're looking for backflow prevention as well, are you okay with us looking for backflow prevention as a part of our inspection duties, or truly limiting it to the material of the pipe entering the structure?
Is that a city issue?
State of Michigan.
No, the backfill thing, is that a city
State
issue?
of Michigan.
Oh, okay, so they both are. Then it, okay.
We need to check.
Yeah.
That's fine with me, I just wanna make sure.
I can't imagine having our staff observe something like that and not be able to
Yeah, like
act
this-
on it.
Well,
Letter
it's-
and
It's fine with me, I just wanna make sure that if they, you know, when we send these letters, I wanna be as accurate as we can, so they know exactly what we're doing, and there's no surprises.
And does it, I mean, if people, I can't tell you whether I have a backflow preventer. I don't know what that is and what that would look like. Are people in trouble if that, because that's the thing, are they gonna get this letter and think, oh my gosh, you're gonna find out that I didn't have something that I didn't know I should have, and am I gonna be fined?
That's why I wanna word this in the letters, because with our follow-up letters, if they need a backflow preventer, that's what's gonna be less listed in the letters, part of our inspection, we noticed you need that. And then we'll give them information on how to go about doing it, and then they'll come by to make sure that that's in there after the fact. So it makes sense while we're in there, I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page if we're gonna go do that.
But that's a safety issue as well. I mean,
Sure.
And
That's
potentially,
the reason for it.
And
It's a
safety-
property damage, preventer too. I mean, all kinds of things, right? I mean,
well, not so
just
much
bad things
property,
can
it's
Hmm?
more safety.
yeah.
For sucking water, stale water or contaminated water back into the system,
Precisely.
which I don't know, potentially could probably go to the neighbor's house even if it was stagnant long enough, I guess, I don't know.
All right, the next one, this is more down the road, but this is something to think about in terms of the overall cost. Do we want one contractor to do the remediation work, or would we like a pre-selected series of contractors to perform the work if there's preventative measures? It's a little bit down the road, but if we follow what we've done before, we'd have like a list of pre-approved contractors. They select one of the three that they like the most, and the costs are still the same. Or do we want one contractor doing a blanket for the entire city that may need water lines replaced?
I like the option plan. Here's three.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Give people as much control as you can over the process.
If you think you can find three.
That's my question. That's gonna be tough because it's gonna be plumbers. I'd like to have plumbers as a part of that because if they're doing anything interior, they're gonna have to be licensed plumbers to do anything. So you can probably find it, but you have to talk to the local ones to find out how they wanna do this and go about that. The other thing is all have them agree on pricing, so it's the same. Okay? I think I have a consensus maybe on that one. And the next one is, if you remember the last presentation about funding, would you like us to pursue other funding to help pay for the offset of this cost? The one that we have in mind right now is going to the county and asking them, as has been done by other municipalities, but it is a substantial cost. I don't know how we're gonna financially do the water meters and the lead and copper research and remediation all at the same time without additional funding. So if there is no idea or no option for additional funding, the meter replacement program is gonna have to be put off for at least a good couple years, is what I'm imagining.
What's the balance in the, fund balance in the account?
Well, that I could not tell you, but I know that
Any
we're looking at
idea?
over $1 million.
I think the operating capital was a little over 2 million, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to, at 6:30 of last year.
Okay, so my concern is that the money that currently is sitting at the county perhaps could be used for other services or other projects that will not be funded later through some federal funding that's likely to happen and become available as the federal government gets their act together on water. It seems to me it's time to take advantage of that for some other projects at this point.
That's an option. The one thing I do wanna make sure I'm clear on is that the funding for anything to do with water or infrastructure, at least the consensus and the direction of everything coming from the federal and state level, those will be loans. Those will not be grants for infrastructure. So those will have to be paid back.
But it's available funding
Could be, yes.
that we may not have for other projects, one way or the other. I mean, we've got, obviously, as every year, we've got $10 worth of projects for every 50 cents we can come up with. And someday, we're gonna have to fund some things with loans or borrowing of some sort, bonding or whatnot, so it might be a lowest cost way to do that.
The only reason I throw that out there is that the county ones, we wouldn't have to pay back, loans we'd have to pay back, but that's this body's decision. But either way, we still have to do the lead and copper exploration, and all the costs that are gonna be attributed to that. Or ask for match funds, and there's a lot of different options, but I just know that there's been others that have asked and been successful, so I thought it'd be worth an ask, and if
We
there's a
can
number that
ask
we're
and then we
thinking.
can
Might
make a
as well.
decision once we know
Might
if
as
it's
well.
possible, and if we decided to go with it or not.
Well, I think if you ask for it, you're gonna take it
Yeah.
one way or the other
Right.
from the county.
That would be, like I said, that's up to this body, because they won't accept any applications unless the commission, they have to come from an approval body before we can ask. But it's out there, we're pursuing other options to help offset this cost, so need to bring that to your attention.
And you're saying other municipalities in that Gratiot County have asked for that?
Yeah, I guess my preference would be to use it for some parking lots or some tree removal projects or something that's not gonna have other funding options
Other
available
funding
to us later on down the road. I think there will be funding options for water system improvements down the road.
I guess I don't like, if Dave, I don't understand the steps, I need explanation, I guess. If you go to the county and you say, is it possible to get this, it's automatic, we're gonna take it if you're gonna give it to us, or is it, can you let us know if it's an option and what it is, and then we can make a decision?
No.
My understanding is, and Dave, because like we did this with the hotel,
Right.
because they needed
Right,
a
that-
improved water
In front of
line
it.
for fire suppression.
Mhm.
So we went to the county, we passed an ordinance, or passed a resolution, went to the county, said, we need, whatever, I forget the number, 80,000.
So once you ask,
whatever
you
it
just
was.
have,
Yeah, it was
you're
like-
You
going-
ask it, yeah, because you
And
need
then
it.
it has to be
You
specific.
can't just say
for the
what if, they don't wanna
government,
deal with what ifs,
Okay.
they wanna say you're gonna get it or no.
So
If you
technically, we're
hypothetically-
really asking.
If you hypothetically ask them to say yes, but you have to present it to us, and then they make the decision.
Okay.
If you feel them out, they're gonna say, bring it to us, but I can't bring it to them without the request of our governing body, so. And whether or not that be any kind of money, you can ask for a small amount, you can ask for a big amount, you can ask for anything, and we will match it. There's a lot of different options for it, but it's just not very often we run into a windfall of money like this to use towards infrastructure things, so that's why I'm throwing this out there. I cannot explore, there's other grants, but I can't explore those because most of those are for disadvantaged communities. We don't fit under that right now, so unfortunately.
Is there an inclination that if you do ask for it, you can't use it for something else? Is it like,
No, you need to
restrictions
ask
on-
for
Yeah,
exactly
it's-
what it is.
you you ask for what it is, but then the second time, maybe some of these future projects that Greg's talking, can you go back to the community and ask for more? Has there been an inclination from the other communities that once you ask for something, they're saying, okay, you got your one thing, you're done?
No, we've already asked for money and
So
received
then why
money from
wouldn't we
them.
ask for this and then continue to ask for things in the
No,
future if
there's,
they're?
that's up to them, but from what, and Eric, you can jump in here, but they have that option to do that. From what I understand, they are trying to be cooperative to ask everybody to come forward with any of their needs, and they wanna be partners in this, that's.
Yeah,
what that class
and they're
agreement
really
that they
wanting to
put on.
look at from a per capita basis too. You know, they wanna make sure that they're gonna spread these dollars as evenly as possible on the numbers of folks across the county. Now, not every municipality is gonna ask for anything either, cause it doesn't necessarily fit within the federal guidelines to do that. We've asked for that 226 that we did receive for the water main. But us being the largest community in the county, our Ithaca to the south, they received 500,000 for this particular type of work that's being done in Ithaca right now. And I don't know the number for St. Louis, but they did receive a number a little bit larger than that for a water project also. So we do have the opportunity to ask for something else. And I think, Dave, you were thinking about what was the number one, you were thinking about the number to ask the county
Yeah.
for.
Based on our size and the amount that we have to do because we're a bigger city, based on preliminary numbers that we're looking at right now on that presentation, would be a little over $1 million. Now, they can say, no, that's too much. It's a governing board, they can say whatever. Or they could say, you know what, we'll give you what we gave Ithaca. Or they may say, we've already given you money, we'll give you up to X amount. If you remember back on the hotel project, the idea was to keep that cost as low as possible, with the idea that we were likely gonna come back and ask for more money for any other project, but we didn't wanna take definitely more than we needed to, so. The ball's in their court, you're asking them for money, so they can say, we'll give you X amount, or we will give you none, or we'll give you exactly what you're asking for. That's,
But on a per capita basis, do we know the amount of dollars they've got? And what was it?
It's a little over 6 million from last
6
time, these
million?
numbers a month or two old, so.
So 6 or 7 million, we are roughly 25% of the county population in this city. We're almost 10,000, about 40,000 in the county, just do the math on the back of an envelope. We're sitting, I mean, we should be equitably approaching 1.5 million someplace out of that fund, give or take. I mean, those are very rough numbers, assuming they wanna do it equitably based on per capita. That's the neighborhood we're in, and realistically, we've already tapped it for
226.
226, so 2.25. So we're looking at 1.2 million left.
That's $1 million.
So. You wanna go on? Or
You're looking
you-
for-
Those
You have more?
are it.
Okay.
That's the real meat one, because like I said, I know this is going to be very expensive, so any little bit will help, and I just thought if there's an opportunity, we're not gonna see anything like this, do we ask? Anything helps, so it's not my call though.
You want some direction.
And I don't want to miss out on a funding opportunity either, if there's one out there, I do not wanna miss it.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to number 3, consideration of a resolution to approve a grant request for Gratiot County SLFRF funds, boy, that was tough, sorry, for the sampling phase of mandated lead and copper remediation, and I believe this is the stuff you were just talking
I was
about.
just talking about, correct,
Okay.
yep.
So, are you prepared, anybody prepared to ask for funds at this point, and if so?
When do we have to, when is the limit on until the funds run out?
That has been as far
It's
as
been
from the
the
county,
Yeah.
that has basically been the indication, is that it's kind of on a first come, first served basis.
Okay.
I mean, they may have some set aside so they don't overfund one if they're trying to, but yet the impression we got when we met with the county that it is on a first come, first served basis.
So right now, thank you. Right now, we are looking at this, what you just talked about. The grant money is there. The parking lots and other things, we don't have set what needs to be done correctly, or completed right now. So if we don't apply for the grant currently, and then we work on parking lot, like, it definitely needs to be done, the parking lot, everything. By the time we get that all around and ready to present, possibly the funds could be gone.
Yes, last I knew, they're actively looking, and what was that class in December, I think, Eric, I know you were there. I know they are actively reaching out to try to get participants to try to ask for stuff, and that's where I know of it to be at.
So other,
The senior
But we-
center received $80,000 for pickleball court.
No, we do have numbers, Michelle, for,
oh, for the.
yeah, for
parking
parking
lot
lots and
stuff?
stuff. We have an
Okay.
idea at least, and then we don't have to go in with full-blown
Proposals.
proposals,
Oh,
drawings,
okay, I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
we
Yeah, you got engineering estimates and construction estimates, I believe.
Yes, we
which
do.
would be
Yes, we
adequate
do.
for that.
Yes,
So can we go
yes.
in for it all? I mean, if we're going in, let's go. Can we do the grant for the water and the parking lots if we have all the information, then?
Yeah, I have some, rough numbers from engineering firms to, give us, this is what we would most likely need. That doesn't include design work, to draw it up or anything, but
But if we presented it, these are what we need for our city to develop, can we get 1.2 million, whatever, and then we could determine where those funds needed to go? In those two particular things.
I wouldn't ask it like that, I would be very forward on what you're asking for, each amount for their peace
yeah,
of
I'd
mind.
say if you're
Yeah.
gonna
Well,
say.
if you're saying like
Staff would have to
800,000
develop
for
it.
Yeah,
the
if you're gonna
tower,
ask for,
and
say,
then-
$1 million, you
Yeah,
ask
I
for
would-
500 for this and 500 for that, that would be a better way to
Yeah.
ask
Yeah,
that.
let's,
Yeah,
I'm
let's
sure,
move
that's
on
what I
to
was
first.
Yep,
meaning.
no, that's fine,
Just
yeah.
didn't- just- Because then we know, I mean, if we get back $1 million, and because we said 800 and whatever, at least we can go for both, I mean,
Yep.
we've got free grant money, everybody says. apply.
Especially in a situation where you're saying that not all communities are going to use it, our percentage may be higher than what we're initially evaluating it as.
Right.
So why not try to ask for more?
So if we ask for it all, then the county might step in and say, hey, Alma is the biggest, this is what they have, they're ready to go, these are the plans, and here you go, Merry Christmas.
Miracles.
And
Dana from Hibbing.
But they have, from what I've seen with some of them, they've, not, they come in with an ask and not necessarily give the whole thing, but they say,
Right.
this is what we can do for you. Yeah, this is what
But
we
so
can do
then
for
in
you.
both projects, if we could have that much,
Now, when
Yeah.
you do ask, do you get feedback on what, let's say they say, yeah, we'll do 50% of your, do they say why they don't do the other 50%? Or are they just saying, this is what you get, and then that's the end of it?
could go either way.
Okay.
I don't know,
They've been
I'm not-
pretty good about, when we went down and asked for our 226, we had a pretty good indication before we got down there to give up the presentation of what they were gonna do for us. When Ithaca did theirs, I was down there for their first ask, and they didn't fund what their initial ask was, but they did, fund a smaller amount. But they kinda let them know that, hey, we're gonna be there to help you, but this is what we can do, so. They were being very fair, so.
Yes, it's been a very, from our experience, it's been a very positive experience, so,
So do you have enough to put together a proposal for the county at this point?
for lead and copper, yes.
And what about parking and?
If
I
that's-
have numbers from OHM to, at least, what it will cost to put them in.
How specific of a resolution do you need tonight, or can you wait 2 weeks to come
The
back? with
sooner the
some
better
actual
for
language?
anything, if you, and I don't know what the language needs to be, if you approve moving forward with asking the county for funds towards this project, if that's as loose as it can be, I don't know
Well, what was the,
That's what we did.
You did one
That's what we-
proposal.
that's what we did
Do you have
last-
enough information to
I
fill out a
think-
Yes.
second application, I
Yes,
guess
yep,
is the
yep.
question.
Basically, all we need is the letter to request with the resolution for the number and what it was for. And then we send down the presentation, and then we go down and give the presentation. Yeah, that's what it was last time, so.
The last time the commission passed a resolution or whatever, a motion saying go ask,
Yeah.
was there an actual number attached to it?
Yes,
That's- So
yes,
I
yes.
think that's
Okay.
what Dave's
Yep,
asking.
yep. We
So
asked
what's
for-
the number you're looking for?
The number that we came up with that we would like to ask for is 1.1 for lead and copper, 1.1 million. And that's what our costs are now, if anything, if they wanna help us out with, if they wanna do the whole thing, or if they wanna, that's entirely up to them, but that's
So-
where it looks like
But I think
where our
what Michelle
funding
was
would be.
saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, you need, say, 3 million. You ask for 3 million, if they say you get 2 million, you divide it between the two. I mean, you're saying, ask for as much as we
ask for
possibly can.
1.1 million for the copper and
And then whatever it
And
is,
then-
I mean, I don't,
2
So-
million for the parking lot.
I mean, are
That's
there
our
any
proposal.
negative repercussions?
What do we
to
find out
ask-
back, then
Right, yeah.
whatever money goes to
Yeah.
both projects.
So as far as what Dave's asking for tonight, I think the commission's saying go ahead, right?
Yeah.
For one
I
point
think
one or
the
whatever.
only
it is.
concern would be if they come back and say, hey, we're only gonna pay for 50% of your parking lots. Do we have it in our funds to pay for the other 50%? Are we in a position to do that?
Yeah, I think we do have fund balance.
Okay, that would be my,
But I mean, for
And we do
tonight,
have
we're not
code.
concerned as much about the parking lots as we are about the 1.1
Well-
million for this, right?
Well,
This is
you're
what he's
saying-
asking.
Yeah,
I think we're
going
concerned
in-
about everything.
Yeah.
Go in with both of them.
Right.
Along with every other problem in town, I don't wanna.
So you're gonna pass a motion tonight relative to the parking lots too? Is that what I'm hearing?
I thought that's what we were.
I think that's the
I think
intention.
the motion.
That was my intention.
So Eric, fling out a number.
No, Michelle's right in the ballpark for what we needed for the parking lots, the alleys, the drainage that needs to be done. We were 2 million for what's left to be done.
So 3.1 would make us real happy, right? We got everything, right? So
Well, like I said, you can ask and they can,
What
do you-
and they
I
we asked
can
for, yeah.
What do you have
adjust,
thoughts
so.
that this is not a good idea?
The only thing, I mean, I think in realistic terms, if they're trying to be equitable, we're then, to me, we're sending a message that we don't wanna make the decision on the split of this funding. I would rather see us say some more realistic numbers, we wanna do we know we're not gonna get $3 billion. I mean, we did the back of the envelope thing, there's not gonna be $3 billion coming down out of that fund, I highly doubt it. I mean, great if it is, but I kinda doubt that's available at this point.
I would ask for, initially, I would ask for basically 2 sets. Basically, you're saying the community,
Yeah.
that we're paying for half. If you would pay for the other half of each project, we would kind of tackle it in that regard.
Yeah,
So
and
instead
that
of
might be
1.1, you'd be
A
asking
better
for
way
half
to
of that.
approach it, so you're a little more realistic with your ask, you're not appearing to be greedy, or you're not saying, we're not gonna make a decision on these projects, you decide how we're gonna fund them, which one gets the priority, and I think it's better
Or
that we.
we're able to
So
do
if you
half
put
of
them
it if
both-
you're able to help, so
So you're saying we would be looking at it as a matching grant?
essentially, yes.
So we would say the city wants to make these improvements, you come up with.
It's
50%.
1.1, we'll put in 5.5, the other one's 2 million, we'll put up $1 million of that, and that seems a little more acceptable, I would think, as far as, if I was looking at grant requests, which I am not on that committee, obviously, but.
That sounds like a plan.
So what's that motion say?
Need a motion?
I'm sorry, is there a motion there somewhere?
Somebody's gotta make
Yeah,
it.
it's next page, I think.
I don't think it's been made yet. Somebody
Okay,
has
so
to make
I
it.
make a motion that we request a grant for $550,000 for the copper and lead. And,
1 million,
and 1 million for the improvements of the parking lot.
support,
Parking lots, alleys, and
Alleys.
drainage.
Parking lots, alleys, drainage, yeah, you can,
yeah, support.
okay, we have a motion support.
Is there any way we can amend those a little bit to just say 50%? Because you probably didn't give us the exact number. It's probably not 1.1 even. Like I was
I think we can put in the application that we're looking to use this as a 50%
Okay,
match
as long
with
as that
local
was
funds,
the-
but I
as
don't
long
think
as
it
we're-
has to be part of
Because
our
I think that's what
motion.
your intention was.
Yeah,
that-
you're right.
Is that true? I guess, Dave or Eric, you went through that.
It
We
might
didn't
be
do any match.
50%.
We did not do any match.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go.
Okay, Sarah,
Oh,
scribble
I
that
wouldn't-
out.
I wouldn't. This is we're looking to leverage our local funding. We expect the project to be 1 million, we expect this one to be 2 million or 2 million,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't say up to or anything. But anyway. Sarah, you got that?
My motion
Is
is.
it clear as mud for you?
You got
She's
it?
got
You
it.
You're good, all right.
She's got it.
Now, does everybody think we
Does
all,
everybody understand what we're
do
doing?
we all have a
Okay.
clear understanding of what we're
I
about to
do.
vote on?
Does you
Yeah,
all?
I do.
Well, we thought that once before, I do believe. Okay, so no more questions. All those in favor would be yes?
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Hopefully that's clear enough for
Nope.
staff to proceed.
Got it.
Okay, next up is consideration of a resolution to approve the proposed process for resident contact during the initial sampling phase and mandated lead and copper remediation. Seems like we talked about this at some point.
Yeah.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions? It's the letters Dave talked
Did we
about.
answer your 3 choices or whatever? I don't think we did.
Knock on the door.
Yeah, I think so, but.
Well, I think
it's
we're gonna
be in
reserve
motion.
shutting off the water. We have to kind of reserve all your options at this
Right,
point.
okay.
Like I
At
said,
some
my
point,
plan
some
is to
city's gonna
move
figure
forward
this
without
out.
it, But at some point, we may have to have a stick to do it, unfortunately, I don't wanna say that.
Right, but so like,
It may
so it's
come
the
to
3
that,
letters,
so.
the knock on the door, 10 days, then water shut off.
That sounds more realistic, and that's why I
Okay.
said I wanna make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn if I put that in a letter, where somebody calls bluff, and then we're here every 2 weeks with questions. I need to make sure that we can move forward, because once this gets going, we've got to get it going and get
Right.
going with some, with
Well,
a lot of
you
data
know,
in a short period of time.
The state may change their rules as these things develop
And
around
that's
the
what I'm
state
afraid
too.
of during this campaign season, there could be things that change, so.
And I think in the knock on the door, if the answer is no, then, well, sir, I would like you to have this, because this is a notice that your water will be shut off within 10 days for, not letting us in, kind of a thing, so.
Just to be difficult, what about the person you knock on their door and they
Nobody's
say,
home.
they say, I have COVID, or someone I am living with is susceptible to COVID, or then what's the answer there?
What I would do, and in front of the camera here too, give them whatever the quarantine period is, whatever that may be at that point, but right now I'm gonna say if it's 5 or 10 days, give them that. And if they have a family, I'll give them what they need. And then ask them if there's a date where I can stop back and ask, or if they would be so kind as to call us to let us know when they're out of quarantine. If they feel, if they have quarantine and I know my position, if they have it, that's a risk I would be willing to take. If they would allow me to come in, if they were so inclined, if I can make the visit right then, that's my comfort zone, because all I need to do is go in there for 1 minute or less, document what's there, take a picture, get out of Dodge, but make it as accommodating as possible. If they're okay with it and I'm okay with the risk, that's gonna be a staff thing too, but I would go by the quarantine period and then try to follow up. But if my comfort level is okay, then I'd go in, but that's entirely up to them. Wanna be as cognizant of their schedule as possible. Same thing with, we're gonna have staff working after hours too, to
Because that was
accommodate
my
those
question
schedules.
today. If you're gonna give them are you like
Cause I
be
understand
at your
people
home
would-
from 7 AM
Yep.
on Tuesday until 5 PM on Wednesday?
Well, the idea that we could be in
anytime.
there at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, if they're
Okay.
okay with it, if it's a weekend, whatever their schedule is, we just want data. We'll make ourselves accommodable to
Thank you.
whatever is the most convenient for them.
Because the other side of this is, I mean, this is state mandated, and so what is I mean, we're talking about the stick, right? And this is the carrot and stick, we got the carrot with the letters, and please do this. The stick is we shut your water off. So I assume the state has some sort of a stick they're holding over our head too if we don't complete this adequately,
Correct.
which
Yeah.
is what? We lose our
We cannot, well, you look at.
ability to sell water?
Yeah, that's one of them. The other one is, follow the Flint thing, we can get sued because we can't quantify that we have safe water and name all the residents that might have a case.
So Dave, are the other people, are the other municipalities, are they threatening water shut off?
There are some that do,
And-
and some that are hesitant to do that. There's really, that's the two, ballparks you're at. And it's gonna be up to the state, in my opinion, in my knowledge of whether or not they'll accept that or not.
I would just love to see a state statute that we got, you know, that's my thing.
Because we can't sell them unsafe water.
Okay, all right.
And yeah, ultimately, if we don't comply, we no longer are in the water business, and that's nowhere anyone wants to be.
So, I mean, we are where we are with it. I mean, at some point, we may have to shut somebody off if that, I mean, hopefully it never comes to that, this
No, because
discussion.
the idea is just, to get attention, but truly, I wanna be very clear on this, and everybody that's watching, I hope the whole city and I hope the whole state's watching. The idea is to make sure that the water is safe for them to drink. That's our only vested interest. Don't care what's in their house, don't care what they find, we wanna make sure that it's up to state standards. We want to make sure that we're complying. Nobody wants to inadvertently, involuntarily, unknowingly produce something that's not safe to anyone. I view everybody in the city that same way, as if they're my relative or they live with me. I don't want, that's the whole goal of this, and this has been something that's been on the books for a number of years, but it's been out of sight, out of mind, and as communities don't have money, that's where there's a number of things that happened in Flint, but let's really put it on the radar. And unfortunately, because of lawsuits, this is where we're at with it. There's much better things we could do with staff time and dollars, but at the same time, if the goal is water quality and safety, that's something we take very serious, and that's really the only reason we're doing it, is to make sure people are safe. Whatever it's gonna take to do that, to make sure that we're within state compliance.
Okay,
Thank you.
do we have a motion?
I think so.
Anything else? Okay, we had a motion on the table, so all those in favor be yes?
Yes.
Any opposed is no? Motion is carried, thank you.
Yep, thank you for conversation, thanks.
Thank you, David, for your work.
Now, new business.
What?
Make a motion?
For new business, we're at new business now. I think somebody wanted to make a motion.
Oh, to, extend Eric's, interim city manager position for an additional 6 months? Is that within the?
If
I think the
effective,
language is up to 6
Legible.
months, but yeah.
effective, what, the 28th or 29th?
Effective
Sarah,
when
what was the-
current
what
one
was his start
expires, or,
date?
Start date was October 1st.
Okay,
Support.
Last day was September 30th.
Okay.
okay,
Yes, well, that's correct.
okay.
Support.
We have motion support, comments or questions?
I have just a question. Is it, how many times has it happened where we've extended an interim position?
I don't believe it's ever happened, to
Yeah.
my knowledge, not
Then-
since my
then
tenure here.
my only concern is it's gotta be a lot for Eric to live through it for 6 months and then say, you know what, hey, there's light at the end of the tunnel, it's almost done, a decision will be made, all of a sudden, hey buddy, here's another 6 months you have to deal with. I think there needs to be some compensation in that, maybe a 2% increase in what he's currently making as an interim city manager, whatever. I just, as someone that just sees that hanging over his head, I think it's deserved.
No argument. It's been stressful, there's no question about it.
Along with doing the DDA and everything else, so. Still, fire.
Is that a motion, Danny?
Technically, there's a motion on the
There's a
table, so I
motion on the
can't make a
table,
motion.
so-
It would be my prerogative to increase it. And I don't know what a percentage would be. My inclination would say 2% is up as much as 5%. Is kind of where I just, just kind of as a hunch, that's kind of where I would set it, but it doesn't have to be any of those. It's just, obviously with the motion on the table, I can't make one. So
You can make an amendment.
I can make an amendment.
For
No,
the amendment,
you
if
can
she's-
make a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor, it would be a secondary, and then we would vote on your motion first. And
Okay.
then if your motion passes, then we would vote on the amended motion.
Okay, I would like to make an amendment to the motion just to increase it by 3%.
Let's get a motion on the table first. Okay, so we have an amendment to the motion, so is there support for that?
Support.
Okay, we have support. Comments or questions? And
I'm
I believe,
sorry, do you mind, I beg your pardon, what was it that you intended to increase it, what's the amount?
3%.
And who made, that was your motion, Danny, and?
Correct.
and Roger supported, I believe.
Thank you.
Correct, Roger?
Yes.
Okay. I believe, Mr. Ripley, you wanted to?
Yeah, I just want to say, I do appreciate that gesture, I really do, but I'd rather just keep my salary where it's at right now. We're working toward, what the hiring committee would like to do. I'm in the process of doing some reviews anyway on different things, so I do appreciate it, thank you. But I'd rather keep where I'm at, and I'm willing to, take another, the interim position here again, so.
I withdraw
just
that
wanna-
motion.
Yeah, I do appreciate it, but I
Withdraw the
just wanna,
second.
I just wanna, let you know, I do appreciate that,
Thank
but,
you.
I think, as we move forward, I wanna make sure that we do this as smoothly as possible, so. That's all.
Very gracious of you. Okay, so we're back to the original motion, I believe, and we did have support for that, I believe.
Yes.
Anybody else have comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor would be yes.
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. We have an extension, so thank you, and thank you for being willing and your gracious acceptance of not taking the salary. Anything else on new business? Okay, next up is appropriations. Any inclination to pay the bills?
Yes, please. Move to pay the bills.
Motion and your support. Comments or questions on the bills? Hearing none, those in favor would be yes.
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 Any opposed is no. Motion is passed. We paid the bills. Commissioner comments. Roxanne, would you like to lead off tonight?
Don't have anything to add other than just thank you to staff. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Danny?
Just thanks to Dave. It's a lot of work to put together, and I think you spoke about as much as the rest of us tonight. So, no, we appreciate the work you put in. Thank you.
Roger?
Yeah, echo that, thank you very much, that was a lot of stuff, we had a lot on the table tonight. I would just, something totally off the wall on that, I would like to say with this Ukraine situation, just how terribly impressed I am with the people of Ukraine fighting this battle against the giant and doing what they have done with it. And I am also just terribly, terribly impressed with the love and compassion that is being shown to the citizens of the Ukraine by the surrounding countries of what they're doing, of just inviting them in, and I just think it's marvelous. That's all.
They say to behold. Michelle?
I just wanted to send a congratulations out to all the local teams that have gone to state, and we have a state champion wrestler. But I'd also like to congratulate all the kids that are just getting up and going to school, because it's very hard. And we've had a lot of suicides in the area. And I just want kids, and not just kids, everyone to know that there is help out there. It is extremely rough. And any child that can go to school for safety for the day, or just to be loved by the teachers and the peers, we gotta remember them. It's not just all sports. it's all the kids that get up, or if they're not able to go to school because they're just not able to go. We have to remember them too. It's wonderful. Sports are great. I cheer them all on, but I just hope that we can all remember the kids that, you know, are just struggling to hope to get to school to eat their food. So it's not just about sports. So I love sports. I'm a great cheerleader, but I'm also a cheerleader for all those kids and adults that are just struggling to get to work, because we really need to reach out to those people that are having a hard time, because the suicide rate, I've had that in my family. We need to reach out to everybody that we see struggling. And just the old saying, be kind. I know we've said it over and over again, but we have got to come together as a community, and we've got to come together for the state to show that Alma can come together no matter what side we're on. Just stop the negativity, stop the cutting down of people, come together, show the state that the city of Alma can work together, even if we have different opinions. We come every time, and we work together as a commission. And I have personally experienced it. I have seen several people experience in the last 9 months that our town has been torn apart. And I don't want to hear one side is better than the other. I want to hear that our town, we owe it to our children. I don't have any children, but we owe it to our children to show them that we can come together. Stop talking bad about the other person. If they have a different opinion, you have a different opinion. We are adults. Our job is to teach our children in our town that we can get along. I have held quiet for 9 months. I'm getting very emotional because we as adults owe it to our children in this town to come together. Bottom line. If we disagree, I might like Michigan, you might like Michigan State. I'm not gonna hate you because you don't like Michigan State. And I've used that since last summer. I'm not gonna dislike you because you voted a different way than I. So I'm pleading with our town to prove to the children of Alma, the state of Michigan, and the nation that being kind will work. Nick?
Best of luck, Mr. Piccolo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I actually couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you.
I didn't even have that planned. That was just, I've held it in for 9 months, folks.
Thank you to the staff.
That's it. Okay. Madam Clerk. Seriously. Mr. Attorney.
Real quick, just 3 things. To piggyback on what Michelle said, I think that's the lesson of this Ukraine deal. You see real courage every day there. But the other thing that it does, I think, is it should be a wake-up call to all of us that what Michelle says is 100% right. We are, first of all, American, and we all love this country. We all love this state. We love this city. And so we might have our differences, but those are our differences. It's like family, you know. I can have differences with my brother and my sister, but I don't want to hear anybody else talk about them. And it's the same thing here. And I think that's the lesson of Ukraine to me. And I think maybe that's what Michelle's saying. We gotta pull together, man. We are Americans first, Michiganders second, maybe, and Elm residents third. I want to thank Eric Ripley too. We've all been through quite a bit this last year. You guys much more than me, but this guy here, you talk about a baptism of fire, and from when he started to where we are now, thank you very much, man. I think you deserve all of our thanks. Holding everybody together and doing what you can and the best that you can to always keep moving forward and always have your eyes moving forward. Last but not least, or maybe it is least, Alma Panthers second in the state, the wrestling team, that was something else. That's it.
Eric?
Just good things are, we got some good things coming back. Obviously, Highland Festival's coming back this year. At the Alma High School, so that's good news. I'm glad they were able to pull that together this year. Also, we'll have Alma Live again this year in downtown. That was a big hit last year, so that's coming back. And then also, we are going to be, I'm sure we've talked about it a little bit before already, but we are the host city for the Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities, which is a small community, rural community conference from towns our size and smaller from all over the state that come and learn about entrepreneurial techniques and ways to bring people together through entrepreneurship. So they'll be here mid-September for that, so we're looking forward to being the host city for that. So yeah, lots of positive things to hang our hats on for sure. So.
And the Back to Bricks.
And yes, and Back to Bricks is coming from Flint to Alma, yes, in
Bring your
June
own car.
3rd. Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Eric, appreciate it. And probably nobody's been a bigger thorn in your side than me for the last year, so I do appreciate what you do, and I do appreciate you being carrying the brunt of my frustrations and my tirades, so I do appreciate it. It isn't personal, I know we disagree, but we do disagree, and we sit here next to each other, and we're able to get along, we're able to get along at other committees that we sit on, and that's the way America should work. That is the example, I think, that, the perceived grievances that we have with one another really do pale in comparison to what's going on in Ukraine. We're brothers and sisters here. At the end of the day, I can't help but believe that one of the absolute worst things that's happened to us is social media. People are so brave when they're behind a keyboard. It's just absolutely disgusting, which is one reason I spend extremely small amount of time on social media, and I would advise everyone to do the same. I hear all kinds of talk about people being called names and whatnot, mostly on social media. Through this whole ordeal for the last year or so, nobody has come up to my face and said anything to me.
Well, you're very lucky.
And I am fortunate, and I really would lose any respect for anybody that would do that to anyone on this board or any other board. There's just no reason to say horrible things about somebody. Nobody is trying to ruin our community, whether it's because we allowed a tattoo parlor in town, or whether we allowed medical marijuana in town, or whether we have an immigration center, holding center in town. We all love this community. We're all part of this. We're all going to make this place better. There's a lot of good things happening. Eric, you just stole a lot of the thunder. There's some activities are happening. Alma Aspires was a great start. We had a lot of things going. A couple years ago, before COVID started, there was all kinds of initiatives around town. And as Eric just demonstrated, some of those are picking back up more and more. I think the steam is going to keep building, and all that's going to start up again. So very encouraging about the future. I think we've got a lot of work to do, but we're getting there. So I'm very encouraged by it. And I thank everybody on this board and all the other boards and throughout the community for your support, and let's all keep pulling together. So with that, we'd like to open it up to the public. Is there any members of the public that would like to address the commission? If you would, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and share your thoughts.
Hi, my name is Roger Haupt. My address is 1682 South Bamber Road, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and I am running for the new 34th Senate District, which includes Gratiot, Isabella, Acosta, Clare, Gladwin, Osceola, parts of Lake, Bay, Midland, Saginaw, and Clinton County. So it's a big area, and I'm glad I had time today to come in front of this commission. I grew up in Beale City, grew up on a farm. I'm currently the state representative for the 99th, which is all of Isabella and parts of Midland County. I think I'm going to fit really good with this area. It reminds me a lot of my hometown. Mount Pleasant has a university. You folks have a university. I think we share a lot of things in common. So I'm going to make this short. I don't want to set up here and go on and on about what's going on or whatever. I would like to say though that as far as the water, we plan on bringing out an approach for I think it's called the Clean Water Act or whatever. And I was just, when you guys were talking, text the head guy for approps. And I said, is it gonna be billion or billions? And he said billions. And you're gonna be able, that's gonna be a grant deal where you go and apply for the money, and that will be, for water and sewer. And I think it's our goal as a state, we know that we put this burden on you folks to have to check the water, your lines, and we're gonna try to make it whole so that everything can, proceed on that. And if that gets closer, I'll be in touch with you folks and try to figure out,
Give me a card for that gentleman, please. Give me a card for that gentleman, please.
And then the other
one with
thing,
the checkbook.
the other thing, if it's all right with you, Eric, I will check on what the mechanism is, because I find it hard to believe that the state wants people to shut water off because you can't go in there and inspect it. And I would hate to see the city get a bad rap for shutting somebody's water off because you're doing what the state of Michigan is asking you to do.
I wanna be correct, the state of Michigan does not want us to shut their water off, I'm just trying to find a mechanism to get accurate information.
Okay, I see. All right, so what you wanna find out is if we cannot do that house, can we do another house? Or what is it?
No, what I need to do is if I've got my 357 addresses and there's 2 to 3, 1, even there's 1, they don't allow me permission in there. Does the commission want me to use a mechanism such as shutting the water off to get their attention so I can gain access? Or are they willing to say that, no, we didn't get that house, and then ask for permission or forgiveness because we couldn't get in that house?
So what you were
It's
saying,
up
like,
to
if
each
you get
municipality to
90% of people to participate,
threshold.
that should be good enough,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay. Yep.
Or can we substitute, get
Right,
another random
right,
sample and get a few
I'm gonna
more.
guess they'll probably say no on that, and the reasoning is I'm sure you have an idea of where your bad lines are or whatever, and I think they're afraid someone will go to the street with the new lines and just use that part of it. I think that's the reasoning behind that. But I know you guys are in a bad position, and I'll try to find out and see what we can find out for you.
Well, we want other communities to solve this between you and other communities to
Yeah,
solve it.
there
then
you
we'll just
go,
find
and
out.
that's a good way to do it, that's how we always do it.
Yeah.
What are other states doing, and what worked and what didn't work?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
again, I'm gonna work hard, I hope I get elected. Like I said, I grew up in Beale City, it's a small community, everybody took care of each other, and that's kind of how that's how I took my job in my district where I'm at right now. I represent everybody, I'm running as a Republican, but I represent Republicans, Democrats, Independents, people that don't vote. My job is to represent and do the best I can for the citizens that live in my district. And again, thank you for your time, I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming, appreciate it.
I'm Sue Rydell, I live on Moose Road, Elmo, Michigan. I wanted to make a comment on the transportation in the outlying townships. You might also mention that since gas prices are so high, that you need to have extra help with that. Also, I want to thank you all for doing your job, and also to wish all of you a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you very much. And happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Who else would like to address the commission? Anybody? Once, twice, 3 times, okay. We'll entertain a motion you're okay, we have a motion.
Support.
All those in favor would be yes.
Yes.
Any opposed is no. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming. Appreciate you having me here.